Okay, Anita Ben, you can start.
Thank you. Om. Om. Bhuvaswaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhuvaswaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhuvaswaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Shri Krishna. I'll now pass you on to Madhuben Popat, who's the Social Secretary of LCNL. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Jalaram, Sai Ram. Good evening to all of you. Welcome to today's program by LCNL. Our President and the Executive Committee welcomes you all to today's seminar on South Asian food and its impact on health. Thank you all for taking your time to come and be at the talk. We welcome Sujata Din, our Professor Pikubai Kotecha, and our President Meena Benchesani. I'll now pass it on to Meena Benchesani. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu. Jai Shri Krishna and good evening to all. Thanks to all for joining tonight's very important webinar on South Asian food. Britain has been celebrating South Asian Heritage Month from 18th July to 17th of August. To mark this, LCNL has organized tonight's webinar. We are privileged to have renowned health and cancer coach Sujata Din, who will guide us on a healthy South Asian diet. Thanks to our medical team for organizing tonight's webinar. Before we start, please note the dates for our future events. On Monday, 26th August, LCNL is organizing Janmashtami Utsav, which will be on Zoom and the LCNL Facebook too. On Sunday, 8th September, it will be at DLC and it will be on Zoom as well. Sunday, 8th September, our Connections team is organizing speed dating event for eligible candidates. On Sunday, 22nd September, our medical team is organizing diabetic clinic for which Pikubai Kotecha is the convener. Not taking much of your time, I'm going to introduce Professor Pik Kotecha, who has organized this webinar, and also he is the moderator for today's event. He is well-renowned consultant, ENT surgeon for over 25 years. He delivers educational talks and lectures, as well as continuing his private practice. He is none other than Professor Pikubai Kotecha. Pikubai, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Meena Ben. I'll just share my screen, so just make sure everybody can. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Jai Shri Krishna to everybody. Thank you very much, Meena Ben, for that very kind introduction, and also for allowing me to convene and moderate this Zoom webinar. When you first mentioned that this is the South Asian Heritage Month which is allocated between the dates of 18th of July and the 17th of August, I personally was unaware of the number of impact that this kind of Heritage Month would have. So why is it that we celebrate this? Well, basically, the South Asian countries consist of Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Pakistan. And it has been since 2019 that the House of Commons implemented the South Asian Heritage Month. And they specifically did it between the date of 18th of July and 17th of August. And I'll tell you why that was. Well, on the 18th of July, it was the Indian Independence Act of 1947, which was established, implemented, and gained the royal assent. And in the month of July and August, we have various Independence Day, and this includes Maldives on the 26th of July, Bhutan on the 8th of August, Pakistan on the 14th of August, and on the 15th of August, the Indian Independence Day. And on the 17th of August, it is the Partition Commemoration Day. So that's why the South Asian Heritage Month is between the 18th of July and 17th of August. Now, the topic for today is South Asian food and its impact on health. Unfortunately, in the medical fraternity, we have a very diverse ethnic combination of patients coming to our clinics. And in particular, when looking at the South Asians, we find that there are a number of things that are genetically more commonly found in us. So obesity, type 2 diabetes, and ischemic heart disease. And all these are linked with what we eat. Now, whether your philosophy is that you're eating to live or living to eat, it does not matter, because I'm sure that by the end of today's webinar, we will all be fascinated by certain facts of our diet. So I'd like to say a few things about our speaker, Sujata Din. It is a great privilege and an honor to have Sujata on this platform. When I looked up her background, it was fascinating that she graduated from this very prestigious Warwick University, but her degree was in accountancy and finance. And then gradually, because of her personal circumstances, she indulged into wellness, health, and other avenues, which I'm sure she will allude to in her talk. As Meenaben mentioned, that she's a health coach, she's a certified professional cancer coach, she's a personal trainer and a meditation teacher. She's done lots of television interviews, and she appeared with Trisha Goddard on Talk TV, with Bev Turner on GB News, and she's written some fascinating recipe books and numerous books on health and wellness. So without further ado, I would like to introduce and welcome Sujata Din to come and enlighten us on the impact of health that is caused by the South Asian diet, and how she can give us tips on to improve things. So Sujata, please start sharing your screen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kotecha, or Professor Kotecha, for having me here. Can I just check you can see my screen and you can hear me? Yep, all is good. So I am going to be talking today about healthy eating and having an Asian diet, and how you can actually do the two together, because we often think, can I be healthy while having an Asian diet? So I'm going to come off screen, but if you do have questions, you can ask them and I'll be answering them a little bit later for sure. So my intention today is to show you how Indian food can be healthy and what to do and make changes that you can actually put into practice from today. It isn't going to be difficult to make these changes. And we often think, if I'm going to be on a diet, is that diet going to mean I'm eating boring foods? Is it just going to be salads that don't taste of anything? Or is the food going to be really bland? Because we like our spices, we like, the herbs that we use. So we think, dieting, these foods are boring, they're bland. We often also think that it might take too much time when we are going to be on a diet to cook separate meals for ourselves and separate meals for the family. Or sometimes people think dieting or getting healthy is expensive. So I'm going to show you today Eating healthy is interesting, it's fun, it doesn't take too long, and it is very affordable. Plus, in the way I guide on how to get healthy, you never need to count calories, and I promise you that you will never need to go hungry as well. So what I'm sharing with you today is for your informational, educational, and self-empowerment purposes. If you are unwell, always do consult with your doctor to get the right diagnosis and treatment that you do need to be getting. As I'm going to be going through what I'm going to be, teaching you, these are things that my clients have been using. You might think to yourself, this is really simple. Will it even work? And these things have been working for over 11 years of me coaching. And for me, this is about creating wellness habits for your diet, for your lifestyle, and for your mindset. These are my 3 pillars, because we can't focus just on the food and we can't just do only exercise. We've got to begin to actually bring all 3 together to see the results that we need to be seen. So Professor Kotecha shared a little earlier that, I was an accountant and then I made this change into well-being. So for me, it became something that I had to do. And maybe you're here today because your own health has hit a low, or you're beginning to worry about what's going to be coming up in the future for you. So many of us ignore things when they are getting worse. And that's exactly what I did. And I do not want you to make the same mistake that I did. So for me, it was different issues that, had begun. Even in my teenage years, if I look, I always had digestive issues. I had constipation, gas, bloating, hormonal imbalances, from teenage years, acne, skin issues. And then I got sinusitis. And when I got diagnosed with sinusitis, I was always tired. I was on antibiotics. I think it was 7 or 8 times in 1 year. I was on steroids, and I just found I was taking over-the-counter painkillers, but nothing was helping me. And then I did what we all do. I went on to Google and I was looking for solutions on Google, but I couldn't find anything that would, help me. So it got to a point where I couldn't ignore it because I was tired. I was in my early 30s. My children were quite young, and I felt I now needed to make a change. So that for me was really the reason why I began to learn about nutrition. I studied, I became a health coach, cancer coach, personal trainer, meditation teacher, because I was actually sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I crossed the bridge to being, feeling much healthier, feeling happier as well. And for me, this is something I am absolutely passionate about. I love motivating and inspiring others to do what they can to get healthy. And I always want you to be able to think about, doing what you can right now, where you are, not thinking about, I'll start in September, or I'll start next year. A lot of my clients I guide are from the South Asian community. And what I'm helping them to do is to reduce the risk of diseases, including type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Now, you're here this evening because you probably want to make some changes as well. And you're wanting to cross this bridge to wellness. And I want you to just take some time. If you've got a piece of paper, you can make a note of it, or just begin to think about, what is your main reason for joining today? Maybe it's just to up-level your knowledge, or you want to learn a little bit. But some of you may have many reasons, not even one reason, but you may have many different reasons for being here today. Often people get in touch with me and they'll say, I'm overweight, but overweight is just that icing at the top. It's that sort of the tip of the iceberg. And you think, okay, I'm overweight, I can't fit into my clothes, it's affecting my confidence, my, energy as well. But for many other people, it's affecting your sleep. Because if you are overweight, if you don't have a healthy diet, it might be causing sleep issues. It might also be causing you to feel breathless when you are walking up the stairs, or you find your stamina is being affected. You might find you've got a lot of digestive issues. You might be here today because your doctor has told you, you need to make changes to reduce your risk of diabetes or high cholesterol, blood pressure. Maybe you're here today because you've already been diagnosed with one of these illnesses and you want to make a change so you can age healthily, and always under the supervision of your doctor. You can then, if you get healthy, your doctor can actually help you on making the changes so that you can even, reduce medication. And I've had clients who've come off medication as well. But I just want to point here, never come off medication by yourself. It's always going to be done under the supervision of your doctor. So how do we get to where we are? And how did I even get to where I was, right? So we often get busy, we get tired, we are overwhelmed, we're working, we're looking after the family, we're doing 100 different things. And the one thing we begin to let go of is our health. We just think it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's not a big deal. And we might find we're not active as we used to be when we were younger, or we're eating a lot more processed foods, or we have a lot more cravings that we're giving into. And this over time can lead to gaining weight. And along with gaining the weight, what happens is you get this domino effect where you will have low self-esteem, low confidence. You end up, because you've gained the weight, you're not feeling the best, you're stress eating. Some people even begin to withdraw socially. They don't want to see others. And then it continues with the snowballing effect of unhealthy eating, more weight gain, more lethargy. And we get to, health issues that you're then finding are hard to deal with. But you can always take charge of your health. The one thing you've got to want is to make a change, which is why I asked you a little bit earlier, what is your main reason for being here today? When your why is important, you really will make a change. This is a picture of Hema, one of my clients. She did my membership program. And when Hema got in touch, she was in so much pain. She used to be on very strong painkillers. She had a lot of pain in her body. She couldn't walk very easily. Even walking for 15, 20 minutes was painful for her. And she had hit her lowest point. So when she started, she was actually focusing on self-care. And what I taught her was the 3 pillars: diet, lifestyle, mindset. And by doing this, she was able to improve her blood pressure levels, improve her cholesterol levels, reduce stress. She's inspiring, others in her family to improve their diet. And she lost 14 kilos in 6 months. So it's not just about the weight loss, but it's what else comes with getting healthy. So don't get on to diet programs just because you're going to lose weight. Think about your health, think about your aging in the future, and also where your health markers are. And I'd like to just bring your attention to our BMI as people from an Asian ethnicity. So if you go to the NHS website, which I've shared the link here for, if we are of an Asian background and other ethnicities as well, we need to have actually a lower BMI score, because if we are at a BMI of 23 to 27.4, we are considered in the overweight range. The other population, other people around us, they may be at a BMI of 25 when they're considered overweight. For us, it's 23. So we've really got to keep an eye on our weight. The other thing is, for obesity, for the general population, it would be 30 and above is considered obese. However, if your BMI is 27.5 or above, for Asians, you are considered, or for South Asians, you are considered, you are in that obesity category. To check your BMI, please go to the NHS website, and it does have a link there to check your BMI. So these are some of the factors that that are causing us to gain weight and health issues. Eating habits, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And also sometimes we're eating the way we are because we live a busy life and we want to have convenience foods, and we're going for the processed convenience foods that are high, in ingredients that are actually not good for our health. Another reason might be that you're, not where you want to be because you're facing stress. It might be stress at work, stress at home, just, different types of stress that are hard to manage, which is why meditation really should become not something that you do occasionally. Meditation, mindfulness, it becomes a way of living. And for me, this is something I really promote along with healthy eating. If you are able to bring in some meditation and mindfulness, it can help. Our lifestyle also plays a very big part, because in terms of lifestyle, do you live a sedentary life? Are you, having not the best night routine? So you're not sleeping very well. What are your morning routines like? So we've got to consider all these different things. And because today there's very little time to go through everything, I'm going to be focusing mainly on just the food aspects. And when we get caught up in these cycles, right? Many people who get in touch with me, they're caught up in many different health issues and weight gain. And it becomes a bit of this, circular motion where you've gained the weight because you've been busy or tired or because of a health condition. And because you've gained weight, it's now causing many different health issues, and you're finding it really hard to actually come out of this cycle and lose the weight. So if you do feel like this, never feel like giving up, because when you give up, you'll find it becomes harder. What I want you to do is to take what you can learn from today and just get started with a few changes so you can break away from the downward spiral you might be on and actually start making positive changes. So today, our intention is to look at taking charge of your well-being and making changes. And by doing this, my client Anita, she reversed diabetes in 8 months. She got in touch with me last August. And since then, she has been, focusing, making her well-being her priority. And all she did was eat healthy, doing exactly the same things I'm going to be talking to you about shortly, improving her lifestyle and working on mindset changes. Your mindset is really key, because if you think you can't do it, you won't do it. But if you begin to believe, let me start with a little bit and I can do it, you will be able to do it. So if Anita's been able to do this, I want to let you know that anybody here today can also take charge of their well-being. All you need is a priority. So we're going to be talking today about, can Indian food be healthy? And yes, it can absolutely be healthy, but we've just got to learn how to stop making common mistakes, because there are many common mistakes we make when having, our Indian foods. Firstly, too much sugar, even the healthy sugars like jaggery. Jaggery, we all have it, growing up, it's always in our homes, we're having it. And I get told it's good, it's really healthy for us. It's a natural sugar. Can I just add it into my cooking? Can I add it when, I'm making my desserts? But when a healthy sugar becomes too much of a sugar, it actually does become unhealthy for you. So that might be one of the mistakes that's being made. Another one is with ghee. Ghee is, yes, healthy. It is actually a good healthy fat to be having. However, it's a fat, and we've got to be monitoring the amount of fats that we need. We definitely need fats in our diet, but don't be having too much of the healthy fats. One point I want to make about ghee is, in the summer, when you're cooking with ghee, right now it's quite warm. When you're using a tablespoon to measure your ghee, you're getting just a tablespoon. But in the colder months, when you get the ghee and you put in a tablespoon and taking a tablespoon of ghee, it's a lot more than a tablespoon, because it's actually a solid at the time. So always measure your oils, the ghee that you're using. Having too much fried food, that's often also causing us, to gain the weight. High salt intake. This is, again, our palate. It gets really used to having, a lot of salt in our foods, and this is leading to some health conditions. Having refined grains is an issue. We don't need to stop having grains. You can still have rice, you can still have roti, but try and reduce the refined grains like white rice, white bread. Don't make your rotis with atta that is the refined atta. You can get the whole wheat atta that you can be using. Portion sizes are very important. Even a healthy food, if you have too much of it, it isn't that healthy for you. So always monitor your portion sizes with the foods when you are having them. And don't just opt for convenience foods. I know there are many food delivery services, or we might be just buying ready-made foods from the supermarkets. I look at some of the supermarket Indian food choices that they are really high in fat, and these are not then that healthy for you. So you can still have convenience foods. You do not need to stop having convenience foods. If you want to use canned beans, canned tomatoes, that's fine to have, but don't have convenience foods that are unhealthy for you to be having. And don't skip meals as well. Skipping meals sometimes happens because when people feel guilty about the meal they've just eaten, they think, I shouldn't have eaten that cake or that mithai. I'm not going to now, eat my dinner. And what happens? You haven't eaten your dinner at the regular time, and then you end up overeating, or really late at night, you're raiding the fridge, trying to find something to eat as well. So regular meal times is important. And I want to talk about eating mindlessly as being a common mistake that's often being made. I have to be very mindful myself with eating because we're surrounded by gadgets, whether it's our phone, it's the TV, it's the laptop, it's the computer. So we're always doing something. And what we want to do is begin to eat mindfully, where we are aware of what we're eating and we actually know as we're eating, how the food is tasting, what does it taste of, what are the ingredients that have gone into making it, what are the smells from the food as well. So eating mindfully is really important. Now, most of you might be thinking, I can't get onto a healthy diet because it means giving up my favorite foods. You do not need to give up your favorite foods. And I always think there is a way of substituting a recipe and making it healthier. Today, in my online cooking class, we made chicken. So I made chicken, and normally chicken would be quite high in fat, high in sugar, but we ended up having a lower fat, lower sugar chicken. So moving away from this concept, I can't eat my favorite foods, that is also a common mistake. And sticking to old habits, right? And waiting for a diagnosis. Many people wait until they've been told they're either diabetic or pre-diabetic or they're borderline, on the high cholesterol. So do not wait for a diagnosis. Let's look at the changes that you can be making. And staying hydrated is really important as well, because often we're not having enough water through the day. We shouldn't just be drinking all the water at one time, but drink water through the day. Recommended for most people. Now it'll vary from person to person depending on your activity, the climate you're in as well, but for most people, it would be 2 liters, which is about 8 glasses of water for women, and 2.5 liters, which is about 10 glasses of water for men. So make sure you do drink enough water. And, don't let your mindset hold you back, right? It's never going to be difficult. It's not going to require much time. People think, I don't have the time, I'm already busy. What we want to do is not to give you a lot of different new things to add into your day, but I actually want you to use your time more efficiently and replace those things that are wasting your time and actually save time by doing things the better way. Now, if you've got a piece of paper, a pen, I hope you've been making some, notes of what some of these common mistakes are that might be leading you to your health issues and to waking. If you can make a note of this, it's really helpful. I know this is being recorded and I'm going through quite a lot, but you can always come back to the recording and write it down later as well. And just make sure you know what these mistakes are, because when you're aware of what you're doing or not doing, you can then begin to see a change. So let's get started at looking at some of the common, popular breakfasts, right? And yes, we all love these foods, right? Whether it's chole bhature or idli sambar, right? You might be having parathas. These are foods that we all like to have. However, the problem is that when you have too much of these, it just becomes high in carbs, sugar, and salt. And when it's really high in these, it's going to affect your energy, it's going to affect your digestion, and yes, it's going to affect your weight, and long term, it can also affect, your health markers as well. So you don't need to stop these, but you just need to learn how to make them a little bit healthier, right? Because we need to find a balance that works for you. And that balance is really different for each person, right? Everybody will have different, choices and preferences of the foods that they like to have. Now, here are some healthy Indian food breakfast ideas, right? You could have savory porridge. If you don't want to have regular porridge, you can make your porridge with, some vegetables, put in, some cumin, you can put in some turmeric, you can put in, some spices and make a nice savory porridge that's quite satisfying to start the day. Instead of having fried eggs, you could have masala omelette. You could also do scrambled tofu, really good source of protein to get you started on, in the mornings. You could have that with some toast. You can still have things like thepla, right? You can have uttapam. You can have pancakes that are made with oats. Remember just to have some protein with it. So add some yogurt and it'll just increase the protein that you're having with it to make you feel more satisfied. And idli dosa, you can have that, but don't just eat too many of the idlis and too much of the dosa. have more of the sambar as well. So you are getting some protein and fiber coming through your meal. So we won't have to stop our foods, but we want to just reduce the ghee, reduce the salt, and reduce the sugars when we're having them. And similarly, you know, if I look at everything on this, I used to love eating these on a very regular basis, right? Like chakri, matti, chevra, samosas, whether it's kheer, gulab jamun, mithai, biscuits. Yes, we all love to have these, but they're not going to be serving us, you know, if we have too much of these on a regular basis. So don't need to stop them, but don't have them on a daily basis. And also watch the portion sizes of these when you're having them. Instead of having fried samosa, you could have baked samosa and make a lovely, lovely chaat out of it. You could do, instead of fried pakoras, you could have baked pakoras, use the oven, use the air fryer. You could make tikkis out of vegetables, lentils, tofu. I have a really nice protein chart. If you are interested in that, you can just go to the website. It'll be on that. It's made with a lot of beans in it, lots of vegetables in it. So unlike a regular safe chart, which is really high, you know, in fat and not giving you much nutrition, when you have a protein chart made with just, you know, chickpeas, vegetables, it'll end up making you feel satisfied. Instead of having chevra, you could have oats mamra, tastes delicious. Instead of things like barfi, laddus, you can make alternatives which are quite healthy, low in sugar. Gajar halwa, reducing the sugar by a little bit. You know, we like mango lassi, but again, we don't need to add in that additional sugar. Mangoes are quite sweet. You could make chikki, you could make kaju katli. These are things that we are making in the programs. These are recipes that, you know, I have, and I know that just by reducing the sugar by a little bit, it makes a difference. So I want to share with you these ideas so that you can get started in actually just making these changes. And you can always send me a message if you want some recipes to get started. There's plenty on the website. So the palate doesn't change overnight. I'm not here telling you you can replace your laddu with an energy ball. It is not going to happen tomorrow, right? But it's going to take time and your palate will change. And I know it does because with many of my clients who have got, you know, very strong sugar cravings, they'll find when they eat healthy, the cravings begin to reduce. They find certain foods too sweet that they actually themselves are looking to make a change. So be kind, be patient, and think of this as self-care and self-love for yourself, right? And let's look at what, you know, many times we're eating at lunchtime and at dinner time. So at meal times, people are often, you know, putting together a plate, right? And when we put together a plate, we think, well, this is quite healthy. There's a lot of protein there, and it's only one gulab jamun. So you know what? It's not too bad. It's actually quite a healthy meal. But if I was to ask you, you know, are you vegetarian? Because I know a lot of the people attending today are vegetarian. Are you really a vegetarian, or do you find you've become more of a grainitarian? I was a grainitarian. So I used to be a vegetarian who was a grainitarian, right? I was eating and filling myself up on rice, bread, pasta, noodles. And as I said earlier, you do not need to stop these. But if you are having too much of these, you don't have enough space on your plate for the healthy foods, right? So think about what you're putting on your plate as you're eating. And what should you be eating? In case you're wondering, what should I be eating? I always emphasize on eating a lot of plant-based foods. These are the foods that are going to help you get healthier. They're going to, you know, support your hormones. They're going to help you lose weight. They're going to give you more energy. They're going to support your digestion, better skin. You know, whatever you're looking for, the vegetables will really help. And you don't need to, you know, cook separate meals. You can have bindi, bangan, gobi, you know, any kind of vegetables that you want to have. You can have a simple salad, like a cucumber salad. You could make a simple cabbage salad. So these are everyday vegetables that are being made at our home. And what we want to do is to cook them in a healthy way. So not in too much oil, but yes, let's use the spices to make them taste really good. The second thing that we should always be including on our plate is protein, right? Protein is essential. We need it for many different functions in the body. And we've got to make sure, especially if you are a vegetarian, that you do get this on a daily basis and you're getting it through the day as well. So protein, I'm not a big advocate of protein shakes, protein powders. I personally feel we can get most of the protein we need from food. In some exceptional cases, you might need to get your protein from, a protein shake or a protein bar. But most of us, yes, we can get it through our foods. And we're so lucky in our diet, right? Like our South Asian diet, we have so many different types of beans and lentils that we can be cooking. You can also use paneer, or you could use tofu and also add that as a protein source when you are having it. You can also be having some yogurt as an animal protein source, and also eggs are good to have. If you do eat eggs, you can include eggs too in your diet. The protein, if you eat non-vegetarian, you can have chicken, you can have fish, but I always suggest, mix it up. Don't have animal protein, twice a day. Try and have maybe animal protein just once a day, but make sure you include vegetarian protein in at least one meal, because that vegetarian protein, it's a good source of fiber and it's lower in fat. Then let's look at whole grains. Yes, we can have these. You do not need to stop rice. You do not need to stop roti. But, think of the options that you are having at home. Are you having mainly white rice? And if you're worried about diabetes, if you're worried about weight or heart disease, can you begin to make a mix of white rice and brown rice? And that just means that you are having a healthy meal with a bit, more fiber in it. Similarly with roti as well, trying to have rotis that are made with whole wheat atta. It's a simple swap. If you do not like the taste of whole wheat atta, you can buy the refined atta and you can buy whole wheat atta and make your own mix, right? But just simple little changes, and you'll find it does help you to increase the fiber of the foods that you're having. I often get asked, can I still eat fruits? Yes, fruits are very important. They're healthy. They're a good source of antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, right? So you can be having these, rotate the fruits you're having, and try and eat when you can the fruits in season. So right now, berries are in season, mangoes are in season, peaches, nectarines, so cherries. Get where you can and have these type of fruits. So if you think about where you are right now and where you want to be, the first thing is being honest with yourself and just, doing that exercise of what mistakes might you be making, and what can you now begin to do to start getting healthier, right? So what you want to put on your plate are always vegetables, protein, and whole grains. And you're going to choose what to have. This is not a diet where you get told, you're going to have a berry smoothie and then, you have to have a chickpea salad, right? You can choose what you want to have. If you want to have chickpeas, not in a salad, but you want to have chole, please go ahead and do that. So you choose what to have, because there are so many healthy choices within our South Asian diet. And what we want to do is to eat the same meals as our family. We are the best role models, whether it's, for children or grandchildren, we are the best role models for them. So I want you to not also be cooking separate meals, because you don't have much time. I know everybody's always busy. We're always busy. So eat the same meals as your family, but just begin to make a few swaps. Reduce the sugar by a little bit, reduce the oil by a little bit, add a little bit more vegetables, and you will begin to see a big difference. Now, one thing that might keep people stuck is being stuck on the craving cycle, right? You might be finding you crave either your savory foods, or you might find you're craving your very sugary foods, right? But the way you come off this is not by saying, I will never eat sugar or I will never eat fried foods. The way we come off this, because it is a cycle, it's very addictive. These foods are so addictive that it's hard to stop eating them, that what we want to do is to actually make simple changes like the ones I talked about earlier to help you adjust your palate. So one thing I'd like to just leave with, as I'm coming towards the end, is that can you think about some changes to make. And you don't need to make all the changes because there are so many changes I've talked about. But can you start with just thinking about one meal a day that you can change? It could be breakfast, or it could be lunch, or it could be dinner. And can you just do that one meal, make that one meal a healthier meal? It doesn't need to be a perfect meal, but just make it a healthier meal and make that change for 1 week. See how you get on for 1 week. And then if you're finding it still a little bit difficult to maintain it and it hasn't become a habit, continue with it for another week. But stay with one habit and build one habit until you're doing it automatically. It's come like second nature to you. And then when you've done that, then come back and build in another habit. What we want to do is to make sure it's enjoyable, always enjoyable. This is not dieting, that it's something that's doable, something that's practical as well. And we're here, as Professor Kotecha said earlier, to talk about, the effect of our diet on our health. We can break out of the cycle of family health issues. If I look at my own family health issues, we have got, so many different health issues, from diabetes, heart disease, cancers, we have gout, so many different things in the family. And I know that I'm not destined to inherit the same diseases as my family, and neither is anybody here, right? Epigenetics shows that you can influence your health through diet and lifestyle choices. So you have to be the one who leaves today saying, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to take some charge over my life. And it really works. And I want to show you real examples of what people are eating when they are doing the program, right? So this is one of my clients, Surinder. She, in just 3 months, improved her cholesterol levels. Her doctor had given her 3 months, improve your cholesterol levels. She improved them. She didn't need to get onto medication, which is amazing for her. And yes, the bonus is she lost weight, more energy, feeling better. And look at the foods she was eating. These are everyday foods you can buy in the supermarket. They're affordable. You can eat the same meals as your family when you are having them. And you might think, did she only have to do this when she was at home and she never went and ate out? She was on holiday and she still managed to lose the weight and to improve her cholesterol levels. So it's not a diet, it becomes a way of living. And this is a powerful quote by Anne Wigmore, right? The food you eat can be either the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. What are you choosing to put in your body more regularly? I'm not saying you have to stop the processed foods, but what are you putting more in your body, and how is it affecting your body? Because, over long term, it can actually be quite harmful for us. So don't wait for another day. Don't wait for a diagnosis. Please take charge when you can right now, wherever you are, even if you've got a diagnosis or even if you haven't got a diagnosis. Take charge of your health, make yourself a priority, because precaution is actually the best thing that you can do. So reflect always on what you're eating. What does your plate look like? Vegetables should always be on the plate. It's not something you occasionally might have. Nobody is promoting vegetables. If you look at advertisements that are on TV, very few people promote vegetables. Protein, always people talk about, but vegetables really for me are one of the key food groups. I think we need to be having a lot of vegetables through the day. So vegetables are essential. Protein also is essential. Making sure you're getting protein through the day, at breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack time as well. Having more of the whole grains. You can, yes, have starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes. Yes, they're all fine to be having. You don't need to stop having them, but portions, balance. You can still have snacks. Some people like to snack like I do. Some people may not need to snack, but just choosing healthier snacks, staying hydrated. And remember, lifestyle is also going to come along with this, and so is mindset too. So you can make a change by actually getting started. And the hardest thing I know is often getting started, because we think it's so difficult. But just start with one change and it'll make you feel better, and you will want to keep continuing and going on. This is Krishna. Krishna started with me last Monday. In just 1 week, she's lost a kilo, and she said, my cravings are gone. Gujarati diet over here, you can see there's, rotis, everyday foods that you're having at home. you don't need to diet. So, make this a priority and let's get started and get healthier. And I hope today that you have been motivated in getting started and, are ready to have a healthier lifestyle. If you're interested in getting in touch with me, you can drop me an email, or I share daily on Instagram and Facebook, and you can just come and follow me there. And, just get in touch if you'd like any recipes or just anything. Just drop me a message either on Instagram, Facebook, or email, and I'll be more than happy to just give you some tips on how to get started. And thank you so much for being here today. I very much appreciate you making some time this evening.
Thank you so much, Sujata. If you can stop sharing your screen now, please. Okay, so we have had numerous questions. We've had lots of complimentary remarks. A lot of people have appreciated what you've done for us today. So if I can fire some questions at you, what we've had. The first question was on intermittent fasting. What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting?
I think intermittent fasting is really useful. It's very good actually for our hormones. It's very good for our health. But when you're doing intermittent fasting, if you're doing, 8 hours of eating and then you're fasting, make sure when you're eating the healthy foods, because there's no point intermittent fasting and then just eating processed and junk foods. So educate yourself on portions, educate yourself on what to eat. And then intermittent fasting will work really well for you. It is very helpful, but it's got to be done the right way.
So I suspect that the diet in moderation, the consistency and the components of your protein, carbohydrate, fats are all very important and essential.
Definitely.
Thank you. There was an interesting question about how to lower cholesterol in Gujarati diet, but I think you showed a very nice slide of pulses and beans. Are there any other tips for Gujarati diets on how they can lower the cholesterol?
So cholesterol, we often think is it the foods we're eating? Our body's also creating a lot of the cholesterol, which, it does. So what we want to do is to not just look at only the fats of the foods that we're eating. We also want to be looking at the carbohydrates, the grains that we're eating. Are we eating a lot of refined grains? If you are, can you begin to please replace the refined grains with whole grains? Look at your lifestyle. Are you quite active? Do you have a sedentary life? Can you just begin to start going for a walk, and just begin to bring in some movement through the day? And I highly recommend meditation and mindfulness. It will help as well. But everything has to come together. It's never just let me cut out on these fatty foods and my cholesterol will improve. It's going to be, what are the sugars you're having? What is your lifestyle like? What's your mindset like? Everything needs to come together.
Okay, thank you. And also, I think the good cholesterol and bad cholesterol needs to be addressed up here as well, because there's certain things that are high in cholesterol, but they're good for you.
Yeah.
There was a question on fasting on fruit, milk, and nuts. What are your thoughts on that?
So I know there's fasting month going on right now because a few of my clients are doing it. If you're fasting right now, what I would suggest, I know you can have yogurt, for instance, right now. If you're able to have yogurt, I would just make a smoothie with some yogurt and a little bit of fruit and have that. Nuts are very good for you. They are a good source of fat, but too much of a fat becomes an unhealthy fat. So, maybe just count how many nuts you're having. Don't just grab a whole handful of nuts when you're fasting. I'm assuming this question is coming because of the fasting going on right now.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So make sure that you are having yogurt or milk through the day for protein. You can also be having kefir if you want to. And you're having one proper meal during the day, make that a healthy proper meal when you're having that. Don't be in the mindset I've fasted through the day and I can eat just whatever I want to. Sort of eat a healthy meal when you can, then at the end of the day or at lunchtime.
So somebody wanted to know, is it okay to have half a cup of full fat yogurt every day?
It is, but it really will depend on what else you're eating in the day. So Frisco Techa, what I do right now is I used to be an auditor before. where I used to audit companies. But now when I look at somebody's meal, and the reason I say this is you might be fine having that bit of a full fat yogurt or full fat milk, but what else are you having in the day which has fat in it? So it is really looking at what you're having in one day rather than what you're having just at one meal time.
Okay, good. There was a question about sugar substitute like stevia. What are your thoughts on that?
Stevia is a good natural sweetener to be having, so you can be having that. It's better than some of the other artificial sweeteners that they are. But with the sweeteners, even like stevia, what I would encourage anybody to do is to work on their sugar cravings. And when you're able to reduce your sugar cravings, you don't need the stevia. I would work on that. But stevia is good. If your question is stevia good, it's good. But if you can and you want to take it to that next level, work on what is causing your sugar cravings and begin to reduce the sugar cravings. And you won't then need the stevia either.
Okay. There was a question by somebody who said that lentils and legumes can have a lot of carbohydrates. So is it okay to replace it with protein shake?
There's nothing wrong with having carbs. I don't know why carbs are being demonized. Carbs are actually good for us. We do need carbs to give us energy. If you feel personally for yourself that you don't want to be having that much of the carbs, then, have a bit of the protein shake, but also have the beans, the lentils, because they've got the fiber in them. But carbs are not, beans and lentils are not, the reason why we're having health issues. We've got to look at how we're cooking them and what else we're eating them with them.
Okay, thank you. There's a question about what are your thoughts on glucose goddess hacks? They've said that just adding 6 berry nuts pre-meals and snacks has curbed my craving and helped me lose 10 kilograms. Any thoughts on that?
I'm so happy, it's worked for you. I think the glucose monitors, some people can get them, some people can't get them. A lot of the people I'm guiding, they're not on the glucose monitors. It is a very expensive device to get. So I'm getting the same results without being on that. So if you want to do it that way, you can, but it is an expensive device. So if you can afford it and you can do it that way, I'm doing it without the device.
There's another question on lentils. Aren't some carbs with lentils creating a full protein amino acid?
If you combine, so if you have your beans with rice, it becomes a complete protein. So that way you are having a complete protein. So it is a good way of having your complete proteins.
Somebody'd like to ask you about the use of extra virgin olive oil rather than sunflower or rapeseed oil.
I am more keener. I personally do not have vegetable oils at home. I'm using olive oil for my cooking. So I would encourage you, if you want to use those olive oil, it's a more traditional oil. It's been used for generations, hundreds of years. It's a good oil to be using, good source of omega-9.
Okay. Somebody has been referred to Second Nature to reduce weight through the NHS for health reasons. This person is a vegetarian. They do not eat paneer or tofu. Can you suggest anything else? I think you've already covered some of this, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I would say, make sure you're getting your vegetables, make sure you're getting your protein, your beans. You don't need to be eating tofu or paneer. You can have, masoor dal, moong dal, rajma, chole, the black-eyed beans. So there's so many different protein sources that we have in our traditional diets.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts about switching to plant milk completely?
If you cannot, plant-based diet, when we talk about the plant-based diet, or when I'm talking about the plant-based diet here, it's like going completely dairy-free. If you're going to be doing that, just ensure that you are getting sufficient calcium through food sources. You can get them through plant sources, plant-based sources. Make sure you're getting sufficient calcium. And the protein is the other thing. If you're having plant-based milks like oat milk, rice milk, almond milk, yes, it's good to have. I myself am having almond milk, but then I do need to make sure that I'm getting the protein and the calcium as well. So you might be taking one thing away, but there might be other things that you're losing out on. So you need to make sure you're balancing it and getting it through something else then.
Another question is it necessary for everybody to have breakfast?
No, some people are not hungry at breakfast time. If you're not a breakfast kind of person, do not eat breakfast. But make sure the first meal you have, whether it's your morning snack or brunch or lunch, it's a healthy meal. And similarly, some of you might think, I don't like to eat snacks. Do I need to eat snacks? You don't need to eat snacks. I just suggest snacks when I'm coaching because I need snacks twice a day, but some people don't need any snacks and they're absolutely fine. So breakfast snacks, that's optional on how hungry you are.
Okay, so let me just sort of put the spanner in the works there for you, because with breakfast, if you ask any medics, they say that the metabolism is dependent on the first meal of the day as well. So it trains your stomach to start metabolizing, and your thyroid function test also depends on the metabolism. So if you don't eat for long periods of time, there is a tendency for your inherent metabolism to slow down. It's still very controversial, still debateful, but many people think that breakfast is the main meal of the day. But you're quite right that if they have the first brunchy type of meal and it's a well-balanced diet, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, and I think some people are also go under stress. Their bodies are going through stress if they were to do no breakfast, if they were to be doing intermittent fasting. I know I could not do it, but for some people, that's fine to do. So again, it's very personalized.
Yeah. So the other thing that I'd just like to enlighten your point about the craving, and especially craving for carbs. I mean, one of my special interests is snoring and sleep apnea.
Yeah.
And when you look at sleep disorders, if you're sleep deprived, there are numerous gastric hormones that are being released that actually induces craving for carbohydrates. And this is quite common in youngsters and teenagers who are always on their screen, and the blue light will tell them at their sleep clock, it's not time to sleep. And their carbohydrate craving is much higher, hence this increase in childhood obesity. So I think that's an important point to add on.
I was not aware of that, so that's good to know.
Okay, so another question about lactose-free milk and lactose-free yogurt. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, lactose-free milk, it's just got the enzymes in it, so you're able to digest it. So if it's not causing you trouble, then go ahead and have it. Like, again, you know, dairy is like dairy, some people will not have it because it might be religious or ethical reasons, or the body cannot digest it. But if you are having it, try and get the better forms of dairy when you are having it. So if you're having milk, if you're having yogurt, I find in the UK, the price difference is not very like it's not very big between the regular and the organic. In some countries, organic yogurt would be much more expensive. But here, if you're having the lactose-free, try and get it organic would be better when you're having it.
Okay, thank you. There's some question from somebody saying, is it okay to eliminate salt completely?
Is it okay? We do need some salts in our body. So, you know, you might be getting those minerals, the sodium through other foods, but we do need some through, you know, the diet. So if you don't want to add salt, yeah, but you might need to make sure you're getting it through other sources in your diet then.
I think we have a tendency to have too much salt, but, you know, I think we can't eliminate salt completely because that would be detrimental to your health. So I don't think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Also, lots more complimentary comments coming about your presentation. They've asked, what does Sujata think of coconut oil for cooking and gluten-free diet?
I myself am mostly on a gluten-free diet. It works for me because it was causing me a lot of health issues. So I would do an elimination. I would always, with any of these, whether if you're going dairy-free, if you're going gluten-free, please work with somebody to do this. And I'm saying this because if you removed something, you might be missing out on some other nutrition. But gluten-free, it works for some people. You know, some people find it's the gluten might be causing digestive issues, or might be causing mind fog. So if you're doing gluten-free is great. But when you're having gluten-free, can you not buy the gluten-free bread? Don't buy the gluten-free cakes. Have the whole grains, which is why, when I teach gluten-free or when I teach whole grains, I do not tell anybody to go gluten-free, but when I teach grains as a topic, because I have a whole topic on grains, I will talk about the whole grains to have, like brown rice or millet or quinoa, but we don't want to replace the gluten and have all these. There's a lot of process. Like if you go into the aisles of the supermarket for the gluten-free the free from or the gluten-free products. There's a lot of processed foods there. And sorry, the other question was?
Coconut oil instead of ghee for using Indian sweets, for making Indian sweets. Can you use coconut oil?
Yeah, coconut oil is good. Coconut oil and ghee are both saturated fats. So again, just mindful of how much you're having it. And because both ghee and coconut oil are saturated, in the colder weather, they're solid. So please measure it when you're having it.
Okay, another question. You've got lots of questions, Sujata. You obviously impressed everybody. How about dry foods like dates and figs? What are your thoughts on that?
Dried fruits are very high in sugar. So they do have a very good source of fiber, but they tend to be quite high in sugar. You might end up eating more of the dried fruit than you would have of the fresh fruit. If we were to look at figs, it's possible to eat a lot more of the dried figs than it would be to have of the fresh figs, because those have got water in them. So if you're using dried fruit in your recipes, use it mindfully. Don't use too much of these. There's a lot of snack bars, like health bars, that are sold in the supermarkets, and they're made with dates, or they're made with figs, or a lot of dried fruit in them. They're very high in sugar. So it's a good sugar, but it just becomes too high in sugar when you're having it.
Another question: how important is it to leave intervals between eating and drinking water?
Okay, that will again come down to an individual. If you have digestive issues, you've got to be more mindful of it. But if you don't, then you can be eating and having water at the same time. But if you do have some digestive issues, then you do need to think about separating it. And you've also there's a whole different topic on food combining that we can look at as well, because when we combine certain things, it might be affecting our energy, our digestion.
Okay, somebody wants to know more about fresh juices. So any comments on that?
Fresh juices, I would suggest having fresh juices only if, like you're not able to eat the fruit, then have the fresh juices if they're made from fruits. If you're having juices that have got a mix of vegetables and a bit of fruit, then that's fine to have. The problem with juices is the fiber's been removed from them. So because the fibers come out, you will have the spikes coming. So smoothies are much better. And I'll tell you, go to my Facebook, my Instagram, my website. There are so many smoothie recipes there. And those would be better because the smoothies have got fiber in them. So you're not having, juices that are going to be causing the spikes, ups and downs.
You've already got some people commenting they're going to follow you on Facebook and Instagram. So I think you've got more followers there. They want to know your website address and email again. Can you tell them your email address,
Oh,
please?
I'm so sorry. I forgot to put my website. So my website is just my name, sujatadin.com. And then if you go to my blog, you can go to the main website and then it'll say blog. And when you go to the blog, you will see recipes, you'll see health tips, some of the things we've spoken about today. There's different videos on that. I've also got a YouTube channel if you want to follow that. But I'm so sorry, I forgot to put the blog on this today.
Okay, no, but they can get you from that. And also we will have this presentation that has been recorded, and the link will be sent out from LCNL to all the LCNL members. And we can also forward it to you. So if anybody wants it, then they can ask you directly.
Yeah.
There's couple more questions coming in. I'll just read those. What if iron is low? What is your suggestion to eat without medication? And somebody mentioned iron, B12, and folic. So if you can take those two together, please.
So if your iron is low, firstly, if your doctor has told you to take the medication, I would always say, if your doctor's told you, like any of these, iron, B12, and so if your doctor's told you it is at a low level, I would actually go get the jab or the tablets that you need to be having for that. B12 is found more in animal protein. It is really difficult to get sufficient B12 on a vegetarian diet. So if you can have eggs, then it'll be easier to get the B12. With the iron, you can have something called molasses. So you can get the black molasses. They are a good source of it. And also some of our beans, they do have iron in them. Some of our vegetables, green vegetables, they do have iron in them. Whenever you're having iron, you want to make sure there's a food with vitamin C in it. Like could be tomatoes in your cooking, if you're making spinach, or, you know, it needs to be combined with something with vitamin C to be absorbed better.
Yeah, I mean, I think vegetarian diet has got a few issues, so I think that's something that people need to be aware of.
And that's why I'd say, you know, it's because when I was low in B12, there was no way I could have got it through my diet. I needed to get it, you know, through either an injection or the supplements. You will, at some point, there is no harm in taking supplements if you need to be taking supplements. Supplements, you're just popping for because everybody else seems to, that's an issue. But if your doctor's told you you're deficient in something, then you need to supplement your diet with it.
Somebody's just said that moong dal has a lot of iron in it. I'm sure it does. Does it?
Beans, a lot of the beans, a lot of the vegetables do have.
Okay, and there's a doctor on the panel who said that there's a significance of vitamin C and iron. So there's an interaction between absorption.
Yeah, so you want to take them together if you can when you're having the food with it. So, you know, it would be like broccoli, for instance, got vitamin C in it, right? So include that in the food that you're having that's got iron in it.
I'm not sure if you can answer this question. It's about fasting foods. So can you eat chia seeds whilst fasting?
I don't know. And so I'm not doing the fasting. And I, in fact, have been asking, my clients tell me what they can and can't eat. And I know from somebody that some people are allowed vegetables when doing the fasting. Some people are not allowed vegetables. So it really is.
I'm afraid I can't answer that question either. So there are two more questions, and I think we'll have to wrap it up then. Are roasted nuts okay, or is it only raw nuts that should be eaten?
Raw nuts do have more enzymes, so they would be good. But if you like the taste of roasted nuts, then have the roasted nuts, and you can add some spices to it as well.
Okay, and a final question. How do you control acid reflux without medication?
Acid reflux, I would look at food sources that might be causing it. Again, work with somebody when I'm guiding my clients with things like acid reflux. What might be the food that's aggravating it? Is it stress that might be aggravating it? So it could be a different combination of things. But just at the top of my head, I would say, look at removing first those processed foods, the ones that are high in sugar, the ones that are high, you know, in refined sort of grains, see if the diet improves. But it can improve through dietary changes.
Yeah, somebody's just mentioned Indian pickles and yogurt fermented food like idli have B12 in it. So, I mean, maybe that does, I don't know.
It does, but it isn't that high amount. You know, some people may be able to get it, but yeah, I think it needs to be tested. I'm always more on the cautious of get something tested if your energy is low, if you need to get it tested, rather than saying I won't get a supplement. I'd rather do it that way.
You very rightly put a disclaimer on your presentation, and I would always advise people listening to us to seek advice from the medical practitioners. Just on the reflux side of things, I think it's very true that, you know, the avoiding of certain foods, especially caffeinated foods and alcohol and smoking and all the normal risk factors for reflux, but also sleeping slightly propped up. So if your pillow is raised up, then there's less chance of reflux, and not eating a heavy meal late at night, keeping a lot of things.
And spicy food as well, which we end up having a lot of spicy food as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Sujata, for that. I really, really appreciate your participation.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Meena.
It's a real pleasure, and I'm so pleased that you're going to join us on the 22nd of September, which is a Sunday, at the DLC in South Harrow. We're holding a diabetic camp, and we're hoping to have 2 or 3 different speakers, and your task on that day would be to focus on a diet for diabetic patients. Most of our audience will be Gujarati patients. Most of them will be vegetarian. So it'll be really, really useful if you come up with a proper diet for them. I think with the diabetics, you know, we need to emphasize that most of the diabetics think because their sugar levels are high, they just cut down all the sweet things and don't appreciate that carbohydrates converts into sugar as well at the end of the day. So it'd be quite useful to do that. I'd like to take this opportunity to, on behalf of the LCNL, to thank you immensely for taking your time out and educating us on that. Really very informative. We've had lots of complimentary remarks on the chat, and your presentation has been recorded. We will share a link through the LCNL website, and if you need it for your other clients, you're more than happy to have that, because I think the discussion that you've generated is immense and very informative and very educational. So thank you so much. Thank you, Meena Ben. Thank you, Yatin.
Thank you so much for having me, everyone. Thank you very much for attending.
Pleasure. And thank you, everybody at home, for joining us. And I hope you all have a pleasant evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.